Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. Yesterday, we discussed about the overall chapter contents in relation to material cost, which is chapter number 2 in the ICA material. And we also discussed about the learning outcomes of this chapter in general. Also, what are the various aspects which are going to be covered in this chapter at a overview level. We discussed that we can consider it as a bird's eye view of this chapter, very important topic of material cost. Though it is the bird's eye view, it has an inherent flow, as we can identify, because even in reality also the kind of flow will be more or less similar to what has been given in this particular diagram, because this entire process starts with material procurement. That is the first point. Procurement is nothing but purchases. Okay, once the materials are purchased, then what happens? The next step is valuation of materials which are received. How to do that is the next step. Okay, those are received and then we have to store them. While storing them, what kind of records have to be maintained? That is the next step. Then once they are in the storage, there are certain techniques to be followed for a proper control of the inventories. What are those inventory control techniques? We need to know them. And after the materials are issued from the store to the production, what kinds of methods to be followed is another issue. That is also one of the topics we are going to discuss. And in the meantime, if there are any other sideline items like waste, scrap, etc. arising out of this process of production, how to treat them is another small topic that is also part of it. Of course, consumption of materials is not a topic. That's what happens in the factory. So if there is a factory in which materials are inputted into the production process, so everything normally, even in the case of a factory also, or for that matter many other things also, it is always going with the same cycle, same, we can say, the sequence: input, process, output. So that is what we can say the common flow of any activity, and it is common even in the case of factories also, where input is happening in the form of materials. Process is the real production process which happens in the factory. Output is the finished goods. Of course, when we talk about materials, we are talking about the raw materials which are inputted into the production process. And this chapter talks about the control of such materials and how these materials have to be procured or purchased. And once those materials purchased or received, how to value them. Then once they are stored, how to record them. Then what kind of techniques can be used for the inventory control. But this topic of inventory control, as the name indicates, it is not only about materials. This could be even about finished goods, particularly in relation to the organizations which are trading organizations. So inventory is a bigger word, materials is a part of that. Though we use that very interchangeably, very important aspect to always note is, in the given question, what is the output, what is the input, we should be able to clearly distinguish. We cannot just blindly follow anything is input or anything is output. Definitely not. For any type of production process, there will be something as input, something as output. If it is not production, if it is trading, this entire process is not there. Then it is all about purchasing the product, purchasing the finished goods, and then selling those finished goods. So for a trading organization, there is nothing special, only purchases and sales will be there. For a manufacturing organization, there will be inputs, many inputs will be there, and that inputs will be processed, and output finally, which is the finished goods, then it will be sold. So for a manufacturing organization, this is the overall process, that is input, process, output, sales. For a trading organization, it is just purchase and sales. We need to be very clear in which question what are we referring to. If we are referring to inputs, we are talking about material. If we are referring to purchases and sales, we are talking about inventory. which could be finished goods also, which are ready for sale. So always this distinction has to be very clearly made. Blindly we cannot just follow because the topic name is materials. I will consider everything to be materials only. No, not like that. Materials is just a generic word that is used here. Of course, yes, most of our focus will be on materials, but whenever we use the word inventory, we cannot restrict our thought process only to the raw materials. Inventory could be raw materials, work in progress, or finished goods. Which inventory we are talking about has to be observed in the question. There is no standard hard and fast rule about each question that it will always talk about raw materials only. There is no rule like that. So there are certain questions which will have finished goods also as part of the data that is given. We should have that ability to identify both of them. When we will have that? When we will understand the logic of a manufacturing process. If we blindly do a problem in the manner of there is some question given, I know how to solve this, I will solve it that way only, I get a solution. If that is the idea, then naturally there is a possibility of facing some challenges. So always, common point as I tell, costing requires an open mind. We need to understand the situation or the case or the actual scenario that is given to us, which is called as a problem. Accordingly, we need to identify what has been given. Are we talking about a manufacturing organization or are we talking about a trading organization? Okay, if we are talking about a manufacturing organization, what type of inventory we are talking? Are we talking about materials or are we talking about finished goods? Depending upon that only we have to approach. So this basic understanding of distinction between just using the word inventory, which is a very broader word, and using the word materials, both are not one and the same. Though we use sometimes interchangeably, but they are not definitely the same. Whenever we call material procurement, materials received, material storage, these are all definitely inputs. These are all inputs only. But just imagine there is a trading organization. So does it not have these things? Will it not have valuation of the purchases? Definitely yes. Will it not have the procurement of finished goods because it has to purchase also? Yes, definitely yes. Will it not have the storage of those the ready to be sold goods? Definitely yes. So everything, whatever we are talking about, wherever we are talking about material, that can be replaced with a ready to be sold commodities also. That is where we have to distinguish very clearly. Though in general, this topic is more useful for manufacturing organizations. There is no rule that every question that we encounter should be related to manufacturing organization. Once again, in general, it will be manufacturing organization. That's what we have to be very observant of the facts of any question. So when we talk about a manufacturing organization, this is the sequence. This is what happens. That organization will buy the materials, then it will receive them, then it will store them. While storing them, it will observe some kind of techniques. And once those materials are issued to the production, again certain methods are there for valuing those material issues. And it will account for certain special items like spoilage, etc. And then after doing all these things, it will consume the material. It consume means they're not going to eat that materials is going to be used. It is going to be consumed in the production process. So the words we have to use very carefully. We are talking about various words here. Again, I'm just repeating them for quick reference. Procurement is one word. Receipt is another word. Storage is another word. Control is another word. Issues is another word. Accounting, of course, is another word. Consumption is another word. Each of them is a different stage in the overall. We can call this as in general, the materials management, we can call that. That is a popular name. No, sir, I want to call it inventory management. No problem. Whatever the name we use, ultimately that's what this chapter is all about. Clear? Now let us enter into various aspects in relation to this chapter quickly. As I told already, we don't need to go line by line. For understanding purposes, you can spend some time in going through this theory which is available in the ICI material. Once again, at a broader level, not doing research on each and every item, not required. So at such a level where we can understand the essence of this, that would be generally enough. Now let us understand certain points here to be just highlighted and noted. So what is materials? We are talking about materials. And we know very well that elements of cost include three. One is materials, then labor, then overheads. We do have all the three as different chapters. Now we are starting with one of those elements, that is material cost. What is that material we are talking about? It is all the commodities or physical objects used to make the final product. Simply, that's what materials is. It is the commodities or the physical objects which are used to make the final product. Are we talking about machinery here? No. They are also physical objects, but they are not commodities. They are not getting wasted in the process of production. So anything that is consumed in the process of production, we can call that as materials. Then materials can be broadly classified into direct materials and indirect materials. I think we should ideally know this distinction already. As the name itself indicates, direct materials means the cost of which can be directly attributable to the process of production. They are direct materials. Which are not directly attributable, they are indirect materials. Simply speaking, direct materials are those which play a significant part for the manufacturing production of goods, not a goods, goods. There is nothing called a goods. So it's a grammatical mistake. That's okay. So direct material means they are going to be playing a huge important role in the manufacturing production process. For example, if you take sugar manufacturing, sugar cane will be a direct material, like that. Indirect materials may be many. Maybe the lubricants which are used for lubrication of the machines could be indirect material. The small nuts and bolts which are used for replacement of small tools, loose tools, can be indirect material. Like that, many indirect materials can be used. For example, if there is a power cut and there is a generator, and for that generator there may be a diesel requirement, that diesel is an indirect material. These are also materials, definitely yes, but their cost cannot be attributed directly to the production process. Those are all the things which can be called as indirect materials. Majorly when we talk about materials, if we don't use any other prefix to that, we are talking about direct materials. Indirect materials are generally small in number, less in value, but not necessarily. But once again, when we talk about materials, we are talking about in general the direct materials. And what the materials have to generally follow is called 3 E's. These are the 3 E's that any materials management process has to follow. 3 principles have to be followed. What are those? Economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. That is what is explained here also. Economy in procurement means you should be able to buy those materials at the cheapest rate that is possible. Efficiency in handling. Efficiency in handling and processing the material means the material whatever we have should not be wasted much. It should be used efficiently. Input output ratio should be better. Means with the lesser input we should get more output, or with the same input we should get more output, or for the same output we should use less input. Then what we call that is called efficiency. I'm repeating once again. Economy is about money. It's not that country economy, microeconomics, macroeconomics, not that economy. Economy here means cheaperness. Means when you procure the material, when you purchase the material, you should be able to get it at a cheaper price, economical prices. That's what we use the word in that context. Efficiency is about input output. Efficiency will be when that material is used in a better manner. For input and output combinations should be in such a way that for the same level of input, there should be a greater level of output. Means definitely for a lesser input there is a greater output. Input is less, but whereas output is more. If this is happening, then we call that there is efficiency in that particular process. If reverse is happening, input is more, output is less, that is less efficiency. But what will be the objective of any factory? Definitely to achieve efficiency. So using lesser input and getting more output is what any factory would aim for. That's what we're calling about efficiency in the handling and processing of the material. And not only that, effectiveness should be there in producing the desired output as per the standard. So effectiveness is about whatever we have planned, did we achieve that or not? Whatever the quality of the output, did we achieve that or not? Whatever the standard that we have kept for the output, did we achieve that or not? That will determine effectiveness. Because the topic has come, this efficiency effectiveness is a generic discussion. This will be used in any management terminology. What is the difference between these two? Efficiency and effectiveness. There are certain points to be noted just for understanding purposes. Let us say you have solved all the 100 marks paper within the 3 hours correctly. Then we can say you have achieved both effectiveness and efficiency. That is what is to be aimed. I'm giving an example of a student attempting a 100 marks question paper. If that 100 marks question paper is written well with almost correct answers within the time, that is showing both efficiency and effectiveness. Everybody requires both. On the other side, let us say you were able to only write 60% of that question paper, but you did it correctly only. Means what? The accuracy is there, but you could not complete the paper. If that is the case, what you have, we can say, is effectiveness. Right? That is called doing the right things. Doing the right things is effectiveness. Doing the things right is efficiency. So effectiveness is about getting more accuracy with whatever the questions that you did, but what missed there is efficiency, because you could not complete the paper within 3 hours. So you took more time to give the same good output. Output was good, but unfortunately, because the input is limited, which is time, you could not really produce the standard that you really expected. So the efficiency was lesser, effectiveness was more in that case. On the other side, let us say somebody else will be there who will complete the paper before 3 hours only. Super, they will write all 100 marks. They will come out and tell that, oh, I have written all the answers and 100% attempted. They will tell. But in that, most of them are wrong answers. Maybe they are in hurry. That is their nature. They want to do them things quickly, but accuracy will be compromised. What can we call that? That is generally called efficiency. But what is the use of that efficiency? No use, because effectiveness is missing. Because what we wanted as output did not come out. So efficiency itself alone will not be enough. Effectiveness alone will not be enough. Always both should be balanced, and together they should be achieved. Then only anybody will be successful in life. Same thing applies to a factory also, for materials also. For while procuring the materials, these three things have to be kept in mind. One is economy, which is nothing but cheaper price of materials to be negotiated with the suppliers. Efficiency is about our own production processes and storage processes, and material handling should be done efficiently. With lesser cost, we should be able to handle the materials. With lesser activities, we should be able to store and process the materials. So that is where efficiency will be lying. Effectiveness is when we are using the materials and the desired output, whatever has been originally contemplated, is achieved. Then we can call that effectiveness has been achieved. In a factory, both have to be definitely focused, and that is the 3 E's we can call in relation to the materials management: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. That's it. Now, what is the importance of this material control? So generally we can just go through them. There is nothing technical about it. You can also go through them. I'm just going through the side headings quickly. Because the quality of final products depends upon the quality of inputs. That's common sense. When you are using useless raw materials, when you are using the less quality raw materials, naturally the final products also will be of less quality, which is not correct. So definitely the materials are so important aspect for any production process, because their quality will automatically impact the quality of final product. Not only that, the price of final product also will be impacted. Why is that? Because materials constitute a significant part of any product cost. Automatically, when you are not able to procure the materials in a lesser cost, your total cost will increase. When your total cost increases, naturally you try to increase the prices, and you will not be competitive in the market. That will be dangerous. So, cost of materials is a very important component of cost in the total cost, which automatically also will have an impact on the final price of the product. And very important aspect here in the process of production is production continuity. Continuity of production means without any break. Imagine there is a factory where the production is running, production is happening, machines are all running, people are all working, everything is good. But suddenly materials are not there. Then what the people can do? What the machines can do? Nothing. So that situation should not arise. Ideally, that situation should not arise. Will it arise automatically? Yes, if proper material control procedures are not followed, such situation will arise, and such a situation in technical name it is called as stock out. Stock out situation should not arise. If that arises, that is dangerous for the production process. Production continuity will be missing. Stock out has to be avoided. Stock out is simply nothing but running out of materials. That's what is stock out. What you popularly look at in the shops as out of stock. We don't use that. We use the word stock out. Stock out should be avoided. How? By having proper material control and scientific materials management. Simple. And that also, not only that, because of this handling of materials under the stock holding will have a cost. Stock out also will have a cost. Both of them have to be minimized and they should not be heavy. Lot of costs will be involved in holding of the stock. We can call them as holding costs or carrying costs. Holding the materials or storing the materials is not going to be cheap. A lot of materials will be in such a way that they require special godown facilities, special type of temperature. Like that, lot of requirements will be there for different types of materials, and holding them, which is nothing but keeping them in the godown, will cost. Should that be very high? If that is very high, it is dangerous. So that should be under control. Same way, stock out also is a dangerous situation. As we just now understood, stock out might result in production not being having any continuity. So it will affect the production continuity badly if it is related to materials. And not only that, if it is related to the stock out of finished goods, then what happens? That will result in the loss of revenue. So stock out of materials will result in a pause in the production continuity. So production continuity will miss. That will become a problem. It will create production interruptions. Which one? The stock out of materials. What about the stock out of completed goods, finished goods, ready for sale? That is also inventory, right? So what happens if that stock is not available sufficiently with us or with our dealers or with the showrooms? Then naturally that will cause loss of revenue, because customers will come to shops and ask for our product, but our product is not available, so they will go for another product. Like this, if it happens couple of times, they will forget our product also. Like that, stock out of finished goods is a very dangerous thing that might result in a heavy loss of revenue. So that should be avoided. That should definitely be avoided. Both stock out of materials and stock out of finished goods are dangerous for any organization. How to avoid that? Once again, following proper recording and control of materials. Materials here we are talking about not just raw materials, anything, be it raw materials or finished goods, as the case may be. I don't have to tell that every time. Don't again and again tell that is it raw material, is it finished goods. That depends which context we are talking about. If we are talking about production continuity, we are talking about the stock out of raw materials. If we are talking about loss of revenue, we are talking about the stock out of finished goods. We have to relate that word to the scenario, not just to, because the heading is material, I always want material. It will not happen like that. Anyway, and another important point to be controlled and avoided as much as possible is wastage, and other losses should not be more. It is quite natural in many production processes that wastage will arise. It's not uncommon. But the point is how to control that, how to avoid that, and as much lesser possible wastage can be done, that has to be kept under that control. So wastage and other losses also have to be minimized as a part of this material control mechanism, or we can call that material management, or we can just call that inventory management, or we can call that inventory control. Whatever the name we give, these are the objectives and these are the various important aspects because of which the materials management becomes very crucial for any organization. Why is that? Because materials will have an impact on the quality of final product. They will have an impact on the price of the final product. They will impact the production continuity. If materials are stocked out, then production continuity will be missing. And if the materials are stored in huge quantities, that will result in a heavy cost of holding them or stocking them or carrying them. That is dangerous. That should not happen. And if proper production processes are not followed, materials are not available. For lack of materials also, there is a possibility of production being stopped, and when production stopped, there is a stock out of finished goods, because of which we might lose the revenue also. So these things have to be controlled well, monitored well by the managers. That's what is a overall importance or significance of materials management, we can say. And in the process, wastages have to be also controlled and very much monitored. And of course, in this process, there will be a lot of information that will be required, and that has to be communicated regularly for different people within the organization. Why is that? So that they can take proper decisions at the right time. So for timely decision making, regular information flow about the availability and utilization of materials is necessary. That is also important within an organization, because without right information, without correct information, decisions will also go wrong. So decisions like what? Like finished goods, when they have to be taken out of the godown, when new materials have to be ordered, when new materials order have to be stopped. All these things have to be definitely decision making process. They are all part of the decision making process, but they cannot be taken. These decisions cannot be taken without right information. That is why regular information, accurate information, up-to-date information is required for timely decision making. These are the various aspects in relation to, generally speaking, materials management, we can call that. Now just giving another name to the same thing, like materials control, all are same. What are the objectives of materials control? Of course, the overall objective is always cost control. Ultimately, it is that. See, cost ascertainment, cost control, cost reduction. These are the words which we already discussed in the first chapter. Each of them is different. Cost ascertainment is different. That is a process of ascertaining the total costs, but giving the detailed breakup of what is the nature of each of the costs. Simply preparing cost sheet is one of the examples of cost ascertainment. Cost reduction is different. Cost reduction happens when a new technology is invented, when there is a reasonably permanent reduction in the cost, when there is a new methodology which is invented, which has been implemented. So new systems have been implemented. In those cases, cost reduction will happen, which is in general permanent in nature, or at least long term in nature. Cost control is different. Cost control is about having a standard, and meeting those standards is about control. Simply speaking, always whenever we use the word control, there is something which is a standard, which is already predetermined, and the control mechanisms are all driven towards meeting those standards. That's why control is simply adherence to the set standards. Are we adhering to the set standards or not is control mechanism. That's what we call control mechanism. And what are the objectives of such a system of material control? More or less it will be repeated. Just quickly let us go through them. Minimizing the interruption in production process. Same thing, no? We're talking about production continuity. There is the same thing here. Production process should not have any interruptions. That is the objective of the process of material control. That's what we have been talking about already. There is nothing new here. We are again talking in just different lines. So what are the objectives of material control? If that question is asked, these are the points you should write. Not writing paragraphs and big things, only just side headings definitely to be written. 1 or 2 lines of explanation is enough. Minimizing the interruption in production process. Continuity of production is a very important objective. Second one is optimization of materials cost. Materials cost includes many costs. Material cost includes procurement cost as well as holding cost. But all of them put together have to be minimized. So they have to be acquired at the lowest prices. That also is part of it. And they have to be stored also at a lowest prices. So holding cost also should be minimized. All of them put together ultimately lead to a lesser material cost. Then we can say we have reached the optimization of material cost. Same way, reduction in wastages is obviously an objective of any material control. Though it is inevitable in many processes, but reduction is definitely important. You cannot say just because it is inevitable, it hota hai, chalta hai. No, you cannot say that. Imagine there is a factory which is manufacturing glass products, which are very brittle, and then if you give an excuse that anyway it is because the glass it will be broken, then we cannot say that it's a good process of production. So materials, whatever is inputted, wastage is inevitable, that is part of it, but how minimum we can keep them, how can be avoid, how they can be avoided, how that can be kept under control is one of the objectives of materials control. So simply speaking, the losses and wastages have to be almost under control. They should not be more than what we normally should incur. So normally for every type of production process, there will be certain common wastages and losses which are part of the process. So when the production happens, the real losses should not be more than what has been predicted or what has been standardized. So that is another point, or I can say the objective of this material control mechanism. Same things, once again, adequate information is required. Naturally, information about what? About the items of materials, availability of them, what is the amount materials purchased, and what is the materials utilized, and what is the material issued, and what is the balance. All these things related to records of materials have to be maintained for all items of materials. Then we can say those records will give us adequate information for production planning. Not only for that, even for decision making purposes, this type of information will be available, right? With this information only we can detect the losses and pilferages. This word is important. Pilferage is nothing but theft. It is also quite common. Common does not mean we will allow it. Does not mean that. So it is also quite common in many organizations that some of the materials will be stolen by maybe some of the workers or supervisors, or even maybe the storekeeper also can be a thief. We don't know. Human beings can behave weird. So the pilferages are also not uncommon in the factories of materials. So they have to be controlled. Proper mechanism should be there. When that is possible to control them, when there are proper records are available, proper information, reliable information is available for each item of materials, then we can have control on these losses and pilferages. Also, that will be very useful for proper production planning as well as decision making. Then very importantly, for any order based industry, completing the orders in time is a challenging task for any manufacturing organization. When there is a big order that is coming from the customer, he will give some deadline, and if you are not able to complete the production within that timeline, you will lose the reputation. So naturally, the goodwill of the firm will be at stake if any firm is not able to fulfill the orders. That is why proper material management is very much necessary if any firm wants to fulfill their orders in time. All these things are part of the objectives of material control systems or material control mechanisms. And going to the next theory questions, each of them is a theory question. Actually, there are not two questions here. This first list and second list both are same, just given in a different way. One question is same. What is the importance of material control? What are the objectives of material control? What is the significance of material control? All these things. All these things are very important theory questions. Any of them can be asked. Answer will be more or less the same. Little bit here and there. You have to give the same points. Points should be same. Right? Don't write any creative words. Use the similar words like minimizing interruption, optimization of material costs, reduction in wastages. Good words. Adequate information, completion of orders in time. These headings you have to write in the same words more or less. Explanation you can just give very briefly, not even this much which is available. Directly to the core point you can just touch base. When such question is asked about significance of material control systems, objectives of material control systems, importance of material control systems, sometimes it can be given as a question that you have been appointed as a cost accountant of a factory or cost controller of a factory. Then the CEO CEO says that material control system is irrelevant and useless. Convince him that material control system is very important for the organization. How? How are you going to convince him? By writing all these things, Baba. If you have proper material control system, then only we can have a quality final product, we can have a cheaper final product, we can maintain production continuity, and we can reduce wastages, we can keep the information intact, which is useful for our management decision making only. All these points, all of them can be written depending upon the number of marks of the question. Generally, the question will be asked irrespective of theory or problems. In general, the questions, the small questions are all 5 marks questions. So 5 points, 5 marks, perfect, will be possible to be attained if such theory question is given in the examinations. Now moving on to another theoretical discussion, like requirements of material control system in any organization, how they will be. In fact, these are not some requirements of any materials management system. I would say these requirements are always there for any type of system, and you can generally use these things probably in the group 2 auditing more than in this subject of costing. But imagination of a material control mechanism and a factory definitely helps in understanding these requirements. All of them are self-explanatory. Proper coordination of all departments, that is the first requirement. And then determining the purchase procedure, means there should be a set purchase procedure. There cannot be arbitrary purchase process. Suddenly somebody says, I want materials, I will take a phone and I will order and I will get the materials, like that, which are like unstructured material procurement should not happen. There should be a proper procedure. People should be authorized to do certain things, and some people are not authorized to do some things. So a proper workflow is required, and everybody should know what is their duty. And the procedure for material procurement or purchase shall be already set. That should be already there in the organization. And proper coordination of all departments is must for any system. Forget about only material control. All systems, all organizations, all departments definitely will need coordination. Finance, purchasing, receiving, inspection, storage, accounting, payment. All departments will be involved in this process. If any one department is not cooperating, this entire material control mechanism will go for a toss. That is why proper coordination is required. A lot of people should be having good information flow, communication and coordination and support from one another. If a finance person says, I will not support the purchasing manager, then things will not move. If the purchasing manager will not support the inspection manager, things will not move. Everybody, every department here is linked to one another. So everybody should coordinate properly in any organization. Then the materials management will be fruitful. Otherwise, it will be a problem. And another third requirement here is usage of standard forms. Forms means we're talking about formats or documents we can call. We definitely are going to look at the kind of documents which are used for various activities, like when you place an order, what type of document you will use. When you receive goods, what type of document you will use. When you issue the materials to production, what type of documents to be used. Different types of formats are there. Documents have to be actually used by the factories. Of course, in the earlier days, all these things were used in physical form, paper form. Nowadays, most of them are in the computer, but format is format. Format will be very much there for each of these activities that happen in an organization. And preparation of budgets definitely will be there, not only for materials, for any department it will be there. Without having a procurement budget, without having a material consumption budget, it is difficult to know how much of materials should be purchased, how much of materials should be issued. For all these purposes, budgets plays a very important role. And as the sequence goes, once you know the sales possible to be made, which will be given by sales budget to us. So once the sales budget is known, from that we can prepare a production budget. From the production budget, we can prepare a raw material consumption budget. From that consumption budget, we can prepare a raw material procurement budget. And when we have that, then only there is a proper, we can say, link between one activity to another activity. So without budgets, if purchasing and usage is happening without budgets, that is going to be dangerous. Without budget, if anybody is doing anything, it is as good as going in a sea without a direction. Budget gives us the direction. Just by having direction, if you have a compass, there is no guarantee that you are going to reach the destination. However, in order to reach the destination, compass is compulsory. Same way, budgets are so important for any organization. Without them, the journey of the organization will be as good as directionless. So preparation of budgets plays a very crucial role in entire organization, we are only talking about application to materials management particularly. And there should be a system of internal check. This is also another thing that you will definitely encounter in the auditing in future, that is in group 2. Internal check mechanisms should be there. Simply speaking, what is internal check? Internal check is about same job should not be done by the same person always. That is first point. And second point is the job of one person should be checked by another person. Without that, what happens? If all the people collude with each other and one another in the organization, there is a more possibility of scandals, there is more possibility of pilferage and misuse of materials. That is why proper internal check mechanisms should be there within an organization. Just for understanding purposes, let us say if the person who is issuing the materials, if the person who is receiving the materials, and the person who is placing the purchase orders, and the person who is storing the materials, if all of them are same person, there is a more possibility that the same person can do any cheating in this entire process. There is no check somebody else is exercising on that person. That is dangerous. So ideally what should happen? Internal check is basically work division that has to be divided. Of course, you may say that what if it is a small organization? Sir, first of all, for costing, we are not talking about a small organization. For a small kirana shop and all, we don't need all these things. Everything will be done by owner only. So we are not talking about that. We are talking about bigger organizations with bigger production facilities. Lot of activities are involved in the process, and each activity ideally has to be done by a different person. Why is that? Because that ensures internal check, and one person's work will be checked by or at least approved by another person. That system is called a system of internal check. That is important for materials process. And let us just understand, materials department is one of the most corrupt departments in any organization. That is a fact. In reality, outside world, materials procurement managers and those who store the materials, everybody, almost the entire materials related people will have lots and lots of corruption possibilities. The person who purchases the materials can possibly take commissions from the suppliers. The person who is responsible for the storage of materials may steal the materials and sell outside. We don't know. All these things are possible. When these things can be avoided? We are not saying that we doubt everybody, but in the organizations, everybody should be under control, under check. Any organization. There is nothing personal here. It is about organization. So any organization, this internal check mechanisms, internal control mechanisms will play a very crucial role. Otherwise, what happens? Lot of frauds can happen, pilferage can happen, and that will lead to losses simply. If the management, we means here management doesn't really focus on the control mechanisms, definitely the organization will have losses due to such lapses. That is a problem. It should not be there. So that is why a proper internal check mechanism is also important. That is also one of the requirements of material control. Then the storage of materials and supplies should be definitely done very well. A well designated location should be there. Proper safeguards should be taken. And in some case of materials, there are certain environmental things like they should be maintained in a certain temperature. They should be staying within this much of lighting only. Such requirements, if there are, they have to be fulfilled. If let us say there is anybody who is purchasing ice for the manufacturing process, he cannot throw that in the sun. What is the use of purchasing the ice if you just throwing in the sun? It will become water in no time. So it has to be stored in freezers. Then only there is some usage for that. So designated, well designated, required location, proper safeguards should be taken for the storage of materials. That is another important requirement. And another system which we will come to that later, that is called perpetual inventory system, and very importantly the continuous stock checking. So perpetual inventory control we can call it, along with continuous stock checking. That is a very important aspect of material control mechanism. We will come to that, but these words are just to be understood at a broader level. Perpetual means forever, means infinitely. Always there should be an inventory control. Inventory control is not something suddenly on one festival we will wake up and say, okay, today I will do inspection and I will see whether inventories are available or not. I will do material checking today. Like that some organizations do. That is not scientific. So one of the scientific techniques of inventory control is perpetual inventory control. Means always there should be a control. Not on one day, not on 2 days, only on 31st March we will do that. No. Stock taking is different. Stock checking is different. Stock taking is about year-end process. When 31st March, usually we need to know how much inventories are there in the godown, what is the value of them or what is the cost of them. We need to have them, because in the accounts also, if you have to take closing stocks, you should know how much is that closing stock. Who will give that? There has to be a process of stock taking. That is different. That is part of accounting process. Stock checking is different. Checking happens whether the stocks which are there as per the records are matching with the physical stock or not. If yes, fantastic, there is control. If no, something is wrong, investigation has to be done on that. So again, all these things, mostly some of them are audit related procedures: internal check, inventory control mechanisms, continuous stock checking. All these things are required for a proper material control mechanism, without which the lot of losses will happen. So very important, these two things. The short note can be asked on them also separately. Perpetual inventory control mechanism with continuous stock checking, both are twins. There is nothing called perpetual inventory without continuous stock taking. Continuous stock taking itself is perpetual inventory control. So both will be twins. They will be going hand in hand. That is another important area of material control mechanisms. And not only that, there should be a system of stores control. Means in relation to wherever there is a issue of materials, there is a control and issue, so that the delivery of materials is happening in the right amount whenever they are needed. In other words, we can say there should be a smooth flow of materials within the organizations. Within the organization, if there is a proper flow, then only the departments which require will get the right amounts at the right time. If they don't get the right amounts at the right time, then production will get affected negatively. So proper stores control will ensure that the right amount of materials are available upon the requisition to the departments at the right time. That is another part of the materials control mechanism, we can say. In addition to that, we need to have proper accounts and records. Naturally, when we have detailed accounting records, then only we can have control on the materials. So recording process also becomes a very important aspect of materials control mechanism, or broadly we can call this all as inventory control systems. Then regular reports should be given. Reports of what? How much materials are purchased, how much materials are issued, and how much are the inventory balances, how much is the obsolete stock. Obsolete means which is useless now, or how much goods are returned to the vendors, how much are spoiled, or how much are defective. All these things, how can anybody know that? If the management wants to know that, how do they know? For that purpose, there should be regular reports. These are all the various aspects that happen in the organizations, and that is all part of a good scientific material control mechanism, or we can just also call that as inventory control system or an inventory control mechanism. These are the requirements of an inventory control mechanism. 10 points are given. Any 5 to 6 points, important ones, what you can remember and write in the examination if a theory question on that is asked. Now, entering into the real actual flow of the material control, how is it going to happen? So we are going to have broadly 3 different things. What are the 3 things that we are going to look at? First is that is procurement. So what are the various aspects in relation to procurement we have to discuss? And the second thing is material storage. What are the various documents, type of records that we should use? And then the last one is material usage control. All these 3 are only right. You purchase the materials, you store them, then you use them. That's all. Managing and controlling all these 3 is what is called material control. So in a simple way, procurement control, storage control, and usage control. That's what we can call that as part of material control. P, procurement, S, storage, U, usage. That is simply the material control we are talking about. That is the shortcut for remembering these three things: procurement, storage, and usage. Now, what are all the things in detail which are all involved here? These are all the things that you can write. This can be a theory question by itself. This can be a theory question. What are the various aspects as part of material control? What aspects will be there in any organization in relation to materials? What all will be there? These are quite common sense things. Of course, the same things in a little bit elaborated way. Of course, purchasing first one, then receive them. After receiving, you cannot directly send them to go down. You have to inspect them. After inspecting them, you have to store them. After storing them, you have to issue them to the production. And then you have to maintain the inventory records. And then occasionally you have to do the stock audit also. That is what happens in inventory control. If you observe, it's a very sequential process. But for this, you need to imagine a factory where the manufacturing is happening that requires materials. Imagine a sugar factory. When you are having a sugar factory, you need to first of all purchase the sugar cane. Okay, purchased the sugar cane does not mean sugar cane will walk inside the factory. It has to be transported to the factory. Then let us say farmers themselves do that and they will bring sugar cane to our factory. We need to receive that. That has to be received. Farmers are not going into the factory and putting the sugar cane in the machine to crush it. No, that is not their job. They will just leave the sugar cane at the entrance. Somebody has to receive that. So once receiving, are we going to accept any bad, horrible quality sugar cane? Also no. There has to be proper inspection of materials. Good quality, reasonable quality, expected quality has to be only accepted. Unacceptable things to be rejected. Inspection matters a lot, particularly when we are in receiving the materials. Okay, we have that. Directly the materials will not go to the factory once again. They'll go to godown first. They have to be stored there for some time at least. From there they will be issued to the production. Then they move to the factory. So purchasing is happening as a process, receiving is happening at the gate, inspection also happening at the gate, storage happens at the godown. From godown, materials are going to the factory. Issuing means from godown, the materials are moving to factory. While doing all this, records are maintained. Records need not be maintained in the factory only. These can be maintained nowadays in computer anywhere. So records earlier were physical records. Nowadays we have all of them computerized. So this became a relatively easier task. But still, the other things still have to be done on the ground, really, by some people. Maybe some of you are thinking, are we going to do all of these things in real life? Don't worry about it. You are not going to do that. That is not chartered accountant's job or an accountant's job. First of all, there are people who will do this. Your job will be at the maximum to maintain the records or to audit them. Until and unless you know what is the process, how are you going to audit that? Suddenly, everybody do not become auditor. A lot of times some people think by reading auditing subject we can become auditors. No sir, auditing is not a subject by itself. Auditing is giving you some techniques of that process of audit, but ultimately what you are going to audit. If you are auditing a particular organization's material control system, then you have to know all these things. What is the process of materials control mechanism? You should know that. These are the various aspects everybody should know. Purchasing, nothing fresh here. No need of any invention or no rocket science here. Common sense is enough. Any organization purchases the materials first, then receives, then inspects, then stores, then issues, means uses. So these are the 5 things on a broader basis, we can say, which are going to be broadly there. And other things are just what we do. These are the things which happen actually on the ground, which are related to the purchase and other things. These are the things which will happen and which will be done by other people. And these are generally the things which will be done by accountants. First one done by clerical staff, audit done by auditors. So that is about material control mechanism in general. Now coming to the core aspect of material procurement procedure. Procurement procedure means materials purchasing, how that happens. Here there are many points to be noted and various types of documents are all involved here. And what are all those documents and what do they represent? We should understand them and we should be able to write a short note on each of them. And by the way, this entire diagram model is only for illustrative purpose. Don't think that every organization will have this exactly in the same way. These many people will be there. Not like that. In general, these are the general documents that will be used in a material procurement procedure. First of all, before entering into the procurement part, there should be a bill of materials, and that has to be part of the materials procurement process. This is a pre-existing document. So this is a short note question. That is called bill of materials. What is a bill of materials? That is also called as a materials specification list or just materials list. What it will have? It will have a detailed list specifying the standard quantities and qualities of materials and components required for producing the product or carrying out any job. So for sugar manufacturing, we know that it is sugar cane, only one material, that's okay. There will not be any big material specification list. But just sugar cane is not going to become sugar just like that. There will be a lot of chemicals required in that. There will be a lot of other ingredients which will be added to that in the process. What are that? I don't know, you don't know. You are not a chemical engineer, I am not a chemical engineer. We don't need to know. But one thing we know definitely, for manufacturing any product, will there be certain types of materials required or not? Definitely yes. What are those? None of our business. We are not engineers. Engineers will know that. And who will prepare this bill of materials? Also them only. Don't worry, you are going to prepare it. Nothing. You are not going to prepare it. It is going to be prepared by product development team. That is simply the engineering people. They will prepare a materials specification list. So if anybody, any organization wants to produce a particular product, this list, which is called material specification list or bill of materials, simply tell that, boss, to manufacture each unit, this many materials are required. And in some of the questions you would have seen also, like to manufacture one unit of finished product, 2 units of material A will be required, 5 units of material B will be required, 3 units of material C will be required. How do you know that? How do we know that? We don't know that. It is given in the question. But how do they know that in reality? That also we don't know. Accountants don't know. Engineers know that. So all mix it together, that will come out as a finished goods. So what is the input that is required to manufacture an output? Simply speaking, what inputs will be required, in what quality they will be required, how much quantity they will be required in order to manufacture a product or carrying out any job. If that list is prepared, that simply is called as bill of materials. That's what is called as bill of materials. Okay, other things are not that important. So why other departments use that? And definitely bill of materials is used for material procurement also, because purchase department uses that, and production department also uses that, because they know exactly for each output how much input has to be used. Stores department also uses that for reference. Accounting department definitely requires this, any type of document which is related to the bill of materials. For accounting particularly, it so requires, because if, let us say, in any particular case the mix of the materials is changed, that we should know. In any particular case, if more materials are used for the same output, that is dangerous. That accounting people should know. If there is any deviation from what has been standard or what has been specified, that we should know. For that purpose, accounting department definitely knows that. What happens is, usually the issue and usage is compared. All the things, purchase, issue and usage is compared against this document. So this document gives a specification. That is why we call it a specification list. Reality could be little different from that. If it is little different, we are also okay. We just call it a small variance. If it is huge difference, means there is a scam. That has to be checked properly. So materials specification list, are also called as materials list, are also called as bill of materials, is a very important document. Of course, once again, nowadays nobody is going to maintain this document on paper. It is a standard thing. One more point, daily will it change? Suddenly today there is one bill of material, tomorrow there is another bill of material for manufacturing the same product? No sir. If once there is a product design, let us say somebody has to manufacture a soap. What are all ingredients required for manufacturing that soap is fixed, no? Daily it will not change. That the product design is already fixed. What components are required for that is already fixed. How much quantity is required is also already fixed. What quality is required to come out with this quality of output is already fixed. So all these things are very permanent in nature. So bill of materials is not going to be prepared every day. It is only going to be prepared once. Who will do that in general? That is why the product development team will prepare. Imagine like a big thing, like a manufacturing of car. Manufacturing car may require hundreds of components. All of them should be listed at one place or not? Should we know what all components are going to be inputted for manufacturing a car or not? Even as accountants, should we know them or not? At least yes. Not now. in reality. In reality, definitely, if you are working in a car manufacturing company as a cost accountant or a management accountant, definitely you should know what materials will be used, what components will be used for manufacturing of that car. So that will be required standard document. Definitely, that is an important document for reference for different departments, including purchase department, production department, but also for our accounting department. That becomes a very important document. So that is called bill of material. It's a popular short note question. What is bill of materials? This is what you have to write. Okay. Next. Another document now we are talking about is material requisition note. Material requisition note. See, normally when there is a bill of materials, automatically how much amount of materials will be required to manufacture a certain amount of output is already known. So daily this bill of material need not be updated. Daily this bill of material will not change also. Just once again take an example. Say manufacturing of one particular product requires 2 units of material A and 5 units of material B as an example. 2 units of material A, 5 units of material B. Each unit of finished product requires that. And the daily target is 10,000 units of finished goods. That is the daily target of production. So naturally, how much of material A will be required daily? 20,000. How much of material B will be required daily? 50,000. That is known already. It is not going to change. If your target manufacturing is 10,000 units of finished product, automatically you will require 20,000 units of material A and 50,000 units of material B, because each unit of output requires 2 units of material A and 5 units of material B, which is known, which is not something new. Daily it will not change, it will be same. So bill of materials, once it is prepared and once you know the production schedule, there is no need that daily there should be a material requisition. So in general, for many big organizations where the production process is already synchronized and already as a part of a big computer system, this is already there. Usually there will not be any material requisition daily or periodically, not required. When there is bill of material, which is a standard document, materials requisition is not required. So automatically every day morning before when the factory opens, the storekeeper will have to issue, in our example, 20,000 units of material A, 50,000 units of material B to production. Automatically production manager in the morning itself will get these two things. Then the production manager will start along with his workers the production process. It happens so automatically that there is no need of any separate document. For bigger organizations, standardized production, where there is a standardized production happening, then bill of materials is enough. For example, the organizations like manufacturing soaps, manufacturing chips, or any other FMCG goods, which are manufacturing a certain amount of quantity every day, they are not going to manufacture for order. They are going to manufacture first, then they are going to push them to the market. So they will definitely have a daily production budget. How much quantity of output is required, they know that. According to the production budget, they know how much consumption of raw materials is there. And according to that, the storekeeper will issue materials to the production manager without separately requiring any material requisition note. That is the advantage of bill of materials. But is it possible for all organizations to have bill of materials? Generally, no. Sometimes it may be the case. Certain orders are processed by the organizations, and each order may not use the same material. No, that is also quite possible. Some orders may use different components of materials. Another order may use different components of materials. So how much quantity is used, which quality is used, that may change from order to order. So in those cases of organizations, that type of organizations, it is not possible for bill of materials. Usually a standardized production system based organizations can use bill of materials, but job order type organizations cannot use material or bill of materials or material specification list. That is difficult. So that organization, such type of organizations, what they will use? They will use something called material requisition note. Just look at the name, that is enough. Understand that from the name itself. Material requisition note. Okay, what is being requisitioned? material. Note means a document. And what is being requisitioned is material. Who requires materials? Somebody is ready to eat the material or what? No, material is required for production. And who is doing the production? Production manager, let us say. So production manager requires the materials. He has to request. Whom he will request? Production manager will write to CEO. Midnight. Sir, tomorrow morning I need materials. That will be very awkward. So what he will do? Definitely not write to CEO at all. He will write to the storekeeper, the stores manager. So simply, what is material requisition note is, it is a note or voucher of authority used to get materials issued from the store. And who prepares that? The production department prepares this material requisition note, and then materials are withdrawn from where? The store. Naturally, materials can be taken from the store by the production department, and how they do that? By giving the storekeeper a material requisition note. So the production department will give a material requisition note or a material requisition slip to the storekeeper, so that the storekeeper will issue the materials to production department. Usually, for many organizations where there is bill of materials, this will not be required, or this can be done in conjunction with bill of materials also, because daily production may not be known to the storekeeper. Storekeeper doesn't know. Today we are going to manufacture 10,000 units. Production manager knows that. So when production manager knows that he has to manufacture 10,000 units, in our example, he needs 20,000 kilos of or units of material A, 50,000 units of material B, and storekeeper cannot dream that unless he knows how much production the production manager is planning to do. If all these things are already set up, everything is already standardized, then there is no need of a materials requisition note. But if it is not standardized, daily if it changes, or if the production happens according to the customer requirements, in those cases, the production department will send a request to the storekeeper. Sir, please send these materials to us so that we can do production. That document is called as materials requisition note. That's it. That is about one of the documents in the materials procurement process and usage process also. Of course, there is one distinction between bill of materials and material requisition note. This is also an important theory question. You can just generally go through that. Basically, bill of materials is a more comprehensive document, whereas material requisition note is only from time to time. Usually, from time to time, material requisition note is prepared, bill of materials is prepared generally for one shot. Usually that is the difference. And as we already have seen, who prepares bill of materials? Usually the engineering department or the production planning department, or sometimes you can call product development department will prepare that. And material requisition is prepared by production department or any other consuming department. Consuming means materials consuming department. So bill of material is a complete schedule of all the components required and all. Material requisition note will not have anything. It is only simply a document which authorizes the storekeeper to issue the materials to consuming department. So this is only containing how much material is going out from store. That's all. This bill of materials will have a complete schedule of the component parts. Sometimes even bill of material could be a secret also. If at all the components of any particular product are not public, if there are confidential things. For example, the bill of materials for Coca-Cola, nobody knows. Of course, for bottling, everybody knows that there is nothing. The paste will be there, carbon dioxide will be there, water will be there, sugar will be there, all mixed, Coca-Cola is ready. That's not the point. To really manufacture the original concentrate for Coca-Cola, that is a secret almost. It's a confidential thing. It's something which everybody do not know. So for them, they are not going to prepare a bill of materials and keep it on a website. Nobody knows that. Nobody should know that. So they are not going to do that. They will only give material requisition, that too, which type of material also the storekeeper also may not know in that cases. So very few people might know in the organization. So the point is, bill of material, if it is there, will tell us all the components which are required for a particular job or manufacturing of any particular components or finished goods. However, in case of material requisition note, it is not talking about what are all the components for the manufacturing of a particular product, but for a day or for a particular production run, what are required. that only will be requisitioned by MRN, that is material requisition note. Generally, bill of material, can this be used as a material requisition note? Answer is yes. But can material requisition note replace bill of materials? Answer is no. Just now, as we discussed, bill of materials can be used as a material requisition note also, no problem. If the production is so standardized, there is no need of actually a material requisition note in many factories. Bill of materials itself is enough. Automatically the storekeeper will issue sufficient amount of quantities of materials on a daily basis. That means bill of material can replace material requisition note, but material requisition note cannot replace bill of materials. That is another distinction. Bill of material can be used for the purpose of quotations also, because you know exactly how much components are going to be required for manufacturing a particular output. You know the price of them, so that will be useful for preparing the quotations. Whereas in case of the material requisition note, it is not useful for that. It is actually a procedural document. Bill of materials is not a procedural document. That is actually the design document or the components list of manufacturing document. So it is not just procedural, it is a scientific document, we can call that. Bill of materials is a scientific document. Materials requisition note is a clerical document, a very normal routine document which just tells us, okay, these things are all issued from store to production. That all we know, which gives us only historical cost. It may not be useful for preparing quotations and all that. Of course, will bill of material give any help in keeping a quantitative control on the materials? Of course, yes, because there is a standard which is already fixed in the bill of materials. If at all, if you observe, let us say as an auditor, that any more materials are being issued for the same output, that will definitely raise a doubt. So it helps in quantitative control, no doubt. But actually, how much material is drawn from stores only is known by this. You don't know whether they are drawing high, low, is it really required? Production manager is asking, storekeeper is giving. That's all. Nobody can say, if you ask the storekeeper, why did you issue? He will say, production manager gave me a material requisition note, I issued. If you ask the production manager, he will say, I issued this material requisition note and I draw the material. He'll tell how much material is withdrawn from the stores, how much is supposed to be withdrawn. There is a standard for that, but the point is that going to be shown in this material requisition note? No. This is once again only a very small procedural document, that is materials requisition note. Very important question, this one. A lot of times it was asked to distinguish between bill of material and material requisition note. And you can observe that also. Usually the points in this theory questions also will be 5 points. Because question is also 5 marks. So you write these 5 distinctions, that's it, you got 5 marks, as simple as that. Write stories, write 2 pages also, you'll get 0 marks only. Don't worry about filling the paper and getting the marks. That will never happen in chartered accountancy examinations. You have to write exactly the important words, exactly who prepares bill of materials, who prepares material requisition note. What is this actually? It is a complete schedule. It is after all one document authorizing the storekeeper to issue the materials. Bill of material can serve as material requisition note, but material requisition note cannot replace bill of materials. Bill of material can be used for quotations. Material requisition note cannot be used for quotations. It can be used at arriving at only historical cost. Bill of material is useful for quantitative control, whereas material requisition note tells us only how much material is actually drawn from the stores. Beyond that, it will not tell us anything. So bill of materials is a bigger document, comprehensive document, scientific document, whereas material requisition note is a clerical procedural document. I know some of you write all these things what I told you. You will get 0 marks for that. It is for understanding what I am telling. Don't write clerical and all that. So it's only about the points which are given here, you should write in the examination. For understanding purposes, yes. Bill of materials is a better document, a bigger document, a planning level document, whereas material requisition note is a operational level, small level, clerical level, lower level document. That is the distinction for understanding purposes. But what you should write in exam, if theory question is asked, is these 5 points of distinction. That is also another important aspect related to bill of materials and material requisition note. See, actually both of them are not a part of material procurement procedure. We have not yet reached the material procurement procedure. Procurement means what? Purchasing from outside. Bill of material is not talking about that. Bill of material is about usage only. how much usage of material is required for the manufacturing of a particular output is what is told by bill of materials, nothing to do with procurement. Same way, material requisition note also is a procedural document issued by production department to a storekeeper, requesting the storekeeper to issue materials to production department. So material requisition note goes from production department to storekeeper. Materials will go or issued from storekeeper to production department, naturally, because production department has to use those materials for production process. These are the points which are inherent to the organization. Within the organization only these documents are all prepared. Now, the procurement procedure has not yet started. The procurement procedure will have real starting point with purchase requisition, and we will discuss the procurement procedure exactly in the next session, right? So the real procurement procedure is different. So far, when we talk about this original situation where we are staying here, so we are now here. Let us say there is an engineering or planning department which knows what components, materials are required to manufacture a product. So what they will prepare? They will prepare something called as a bill of materials, which gives us what inputs are required for manufacturing a particular output. Then this is not going to do it daily. This is once in a lifetime exercise generally for a particular product. If it is like a job type industry, at least for each job they will do this planning. They will give this bill of materials. Then there is a real people who are actually working in the factory. Those are called production department or workshop. And what they will do? The production department will give a material requisition note. Material requisition note. Who will give that? The production department will give. To whom? To stores department. The production department will give material requisition note. Of course, by taking that material requisition note, what the stores department will do? It will give materials to production department. It will issue the materials. So this is a document which is coming from production department to stores department. What is flowing from stores to production? Real materials. These are the only two things. But it is all happening within the organization only. If you observe, these are the documents which are maintained. One, for the purpose of knowing the list of materials. Two, for the purpose of asking the storekeeper to issue the materials to production. These two things we have discussed. The real procurement process starts later. That is where we will start with purchase requisition, then 4, 5, 6, like that. One by one, the real procurement process starts from the next step onwards, which we will discuss in the next session. Till that time, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.